Hello, Julia. How are you?
I'm good, Pat. How are you?
Good. Did you enjoy doing, this is your first time doing the review of the grants?
Oh, yes, of these ones, yeah.
Well, yeah, I know you've done a lot of grant review outside of here, so. Oh, it's an interesting year. And I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do up at the council, but it's at this point, it looks like they're talking about $400,000. And I think we're going to be the first step to review those as well. So, and I'm not sure that, I think it would be over the 3 years that they have to spend it. It wouldn't all have to go out initially, but so that's kind of where it's looking like it's heading with ARPA.
Okay. So is that separate from what we're doing today? Okay.
So I think they're looking at this group since we've been doing it in advisement to the town council, I think it was one of the first things that when this was established, when this group was established. So, hi, Ethel. Hi, how are you doing?
Good, good. Forgot to unmute myself and start my video. All this technology. How are you, Pat?
Good. I was at a meeting last night that was, it wasn't for this, it was the town I live in, and they had advertised it as hybrid, and there was a public hearing part of it, and they could not get the technology to work. So even though there was probably nobody coming to the public meeting, because they advertised it as hybrid, so we went out in the pouring rain
to get it going, huh?
And we couldn't have it because they couldn't get the technology going.
Oh,
So,
isn't that something? Wow.
but yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
hopefully we'll have a quorum and we can get this done today.
I know.
I saw the charge from the Committee on Committees,
Mhm.
and they don't tell you how many people you need to have, which is good.
Right.
So
Yeah, I don't, that was one of the things, remember, we were kind of saying
that we didn't want.
We want to make sure that we have, and that we don't have to, if someone's high, if someone really wants to be on, or if they'd be a really good part of it, we don't want to turn people away either, because you know what I mean? They don't fit a slot, or they don't. So.
Did we have some new people today?
Hello, everyone.
Pardon?
Hi.
Hi.
We have new people today?
Julia and Jennifer have been here before, or maybe I met them. Both Jennifer and Julia have been here before.
I've met you.
Jennifer, I think I met you. I met at the Committee on the Committees. That's how I knew you.
They haven't been here before, I don't think.
I think this is my,
Julia has.
yeah, this is my third meeting.
Right.
I don't remember.
Hey, Bill.
Jennifer is actually, the Housing Authority asked her to be a representative of housing and fair housing issues in town. Good. So we're very happy to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
I know. I was on the phone with Nancy Trawick-Smith, who's on the Commission on Aging, and for some reason I'm like, I'm going to talk to you in a few minutes, and she's like,
no.
What are you talking about?
She does homemakers.
Right. Yes, she's the executive director of Homemaker, but she lives in town as well. So
yeah.
And she's been around as long as me, Ethel.
She's great. I love Nancy.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yep.
But it's funny, those of us who've been around this number of years, more and more of us are retiring. So there's fewer and fewer of us around. There's more new faces when I go to, meetings or whatever, of colleagues.
That's good though. It's good to have new blood.
Right.
And younger people.
And And Danielle got a new position. I don't know if
Yeah.
you knew that.
I think that was great. Yeah,
So-
she sent an email.
So here's the thing. She is taking a position with someone that I used to work with in Windsor. Who's a friend of mine, who was the first executive director of that agency.
And
She's retiring.
She's retiring, so Danielle's taking her place, huh?
Yes, and then she's also working with someone else I worked with before.
Good.
She's a social worker over there.
Yeah.
And it's a small agency. It's just
Yeah, I
such a
think-
small world. And I was like, oh geez, that person is older than me. So I'm like, I'm surprised she's working, but she's working part-time.
Well, I think Danielle will do well.
I know she will. And you know what? The person she's taking over for is tremendous and very organized. So.
Good, good. Yeah. I
Hi,
think she'll do well.
Katie. Hello, Victoria. Hi, Shamim. How are you? I
Hey,
really do
Shamim.
feel like I'm on Hollywood Squares here.
I
You
guess.
do have a quorum at this point, Ethel. I'm not sure if you want
Okay.
to wait on this or.
Oh, why don't we start then, because we have a lot to go through. So I'll call the meeting to order. I think everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes, right, from the last meeting. If there's no corrections or additions or anything like that, I think we can just accept the minutes as presented, okay? And save us some time. Okay, so let's get started. I had my agenda.
I think
Sorry, go
Ethel,
ahead.
you need to make a motion though, and,
Oh, okay,
or someone needs to make a motion
So
and
moved.
second
all right, I'll second it. Or anybody can second it. Victoria, you can second her.
it.
Anyway, so why don't we just go right on to skip all the stuff and just get right to the
Mhm.
grants, okay?
Yes.
So we can get going. And we should just go through the grants as they're presented on the spreadsheet. On the funding request
Okay.
sheet, okay? And that's this thing that
And-
looks like a, one of these.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
And again, Ethel, can I just, for those of you who haven't done it before,
oh, yeah,
usually we spend a little bit of time in the beginning talking about what are the goals for this year, like what are the priorities and how do the grantees fit into it? So I know last year we said food insecurity and mental health and basic needs, right? Utilities and shelter and that kind of stuff were really, especially with COVID, a huge priority. So
so our goals are probably the same as last year, right?
that would be up for discussion.
What are your departmental goals? Have your departmental goals changed at all since last year, Pat?
I would say that we have been, mental health, and it's particularly social isolation and, issues, I'll be honest with you, around, a lot of the issues around schools and families, and the stress of families is big, and food insecurity has been huge and continues to be a huge
Which we
issue.
had a lot for.
I think what's emerging too is utility and utility costs. And of course, the housing situation, rents, mortgage, the increase now in evictions. So there's a lot of that, but I would say, Katie, wouldn't you say that mental health and access to direct services has been kind of a priority throughout COVID and is becoming more and more of a priority, I would say.
Okay.
Is there a budget? Do we ever have a starting
Oh.
number?
So I have asked for that the last several years. The town manager has given me kind of an idea that we're not like, let's keep it flat this year. So that's part of a discussion. The town is getting some additional funds this year. So I think things are up for discussion in that area. And, you know, definitely the recommendations that come from the committee here to the council will absolutely play into
What was it
what
last
happens
year?
with that.
What was the
Pardon?
budget? What was it last year? The budget?
Let me add it up. I'll tell you, it's basically the totals on the sheet here.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I
You
see.
guys continue to discuss while I do that for you.
I'm wondering, how was food addressed last year? When I look at these agencies, I'm not sure which ones are actually, other than maybe help buying groceries. But was food addressed in any particular way that you felt last year was sort of forward-looking?
Right, so Meals on Wheels was addressed, and I know Wayne gets money, not necessarily for food, but they offer a food pantry, and they offer,
No, Vicky's saying no, Victoria's saying
Vicky's
no.
saying
We
no.
don't do food at all. We just have a community.
Oh, you don't do food? Oh, okay. And then the shelters as well. Definitely the women's shelter, Women and Families Shelter, the Holy Family Shelter,
Yeah.
deals with food issues as well. So,
Access-
I mean,
access
our
funds.
department has dealt with food issues in a huge way, and the town has, but,
Can I ask by doing what? What did you do?
so not only do we have our regular food pantry and our Neighbors Helping Neighbors program and our holiday programs, which we supplement with gift cards to local supermarkets. But we also partner and do food share. We do a TFAP program here, but the town's big push to that has been both drive-through meals at the senior center, and, you know, and grab and go meals at the senior center, but bigger, the CBDG program, where we're doing groceries specifically for families who've been hit by COVID.
Thank you.
So, and
Yeah.
then, you know, the case management, where we try to get people on to the SNAP program, to WIC, and, you know, long-term, more sustainable programs. So yes, we have our own programs, but it is something that the town council, I know, is concerned about, food insecurity. So.
Since
I
we
think our
don't,
budget was- Okay, go ahead, sorry.
no, I was just thinking, since we don't have a budget and we don't really know what we're working with, it's hard to look at even more forward-looking things. Like a lot of what we have is sort of rescue programs, sort of maintenance and rescue programs, and looking at food insecurity in a different way in the town of Mansfield at some point, not for this meeting, but at some point, in terms of the amount of land that Mansfield has, and things like teaching and creating programs for food forest farming on people's small plots of land could be something that could really shift the landscape of Mansfield toward a much deeper sense of food security. That could be a really interesting conversation at some point.
I did forget one program, which is Farms to Families, that started out as a grant from the State Department of Agriculture, which allowed us to do purchased or cooperative purchased shares at local farms,
That's cool.
and a number of distribution of local products. And this year, the Awesome Foundation is giving us the money for the product. And in my budget, I proposed the money to pay for the coordination of it. So it would be a cooperative grant. And so that's another program, which I think it's one of the most successful programs we've had this past year, because it helps the farms as well as people who are of lower income can appreciate some of those local fresh products. So.
And I wonder how many people actually know about all these programs in terms of food security. So that would be
Right.
an interesting thing as well, to get out a little bit more information to Mansfield residents about specific things, like, for instance, food security, and put all the programs under it and send out that
Right.
information. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
It's-
I know
it-
Dorothy does
yeah.
a great job at it in our office, but we
Nice.
definitely could do more.
I was going to say, I think there was a mailer that went out that was
Yes.
a postcard about the Neighbors Helping Neighbors and the nutrition programs. And I think that did do a mass mailing. I'm actually gonna like pop out into my waiting area and grab one because we still have them on the table.
I'm wondering,
Right, and the CBDG grant absolutely did a full mailing out to all the households, so,
Is that the one through the planning department?
yes.
That's
but-
through planning and zoning, right?
Correct, but we partner with that. So, for example, my staff does the grocery shopping. So,
Yeah.
but
So
yes,
this is
yep.
the mailing that went out.
Yeah, I
And
saw
this was a
that.
mass mailing to
Yeah.
all Mansfield households. So it is specifically focused on childcare assistance and food assistance. And food assistance isn't necessarily just limited to the CBGB grant, but also kind of has the contact points for if you need general food assistance, let us know, connect with us, and we'll get you connected to the multitude of programs. And I know Victoria had pointed out that Access Agency is one of the grant applicants who also assists with WIC and other nutrition supports for our families.
Awesome.
just a suggestion. Can you hear me? Is my voice, yeah.
Yeah.
I think some of this stuff can go up on our website, the Town of Mansfield website. We've got a human services department link, but it doesn't really have a lot of information on it, as I'm sure the rest of the departments don't. But that might be something, and I don't know how we can move that along, but I think that would be to your point, Jennifer, I think that would be a really great thing to get the word out to the community as to what Mansfield is doing.
I actually think it's really essential because when people get a mailing maybe once in a year and then they put it aside and then they forget, but then when they're in need, when people are in need, their brains shut down. So the best thing you can have is more information posted in places where people will find it and 24/7.
And I will say the CBDG grant, because it was COVID related and so many people have dealt with either less income or their expenses skyrocketing, I will say that they would be surprised at the income limits, that there'll be, a lot of people wouldn't think that they were eligible, and they would be very eligible for that program.
Wow. Yeah.
So how do you get that word out? That it's really, the income levels are much higher than many of the other programs for food insecurity. So
It's important.
So, did you come up with a total?
the
that we
final
had
figure,
last
yes, last year we gave out $48,000,
year? Okay.
and I can absolutely say that they're probably looking for us to come forward with more than that.
Okay. Well,
So
should we get started then?
Sure. And
Okay.
any other questions? I know
I
some of
did
you.
just put in the chat a link to the Human Services Food Programs page. And if you are curious what is posted, each of the boxes is click-throughable on it. So there is a pretty substantive listing of some of the programs that we have. But I'm wondering if there's the feedback that maybe folks don't know to click on them. And if there's kind of a logistics component that we might look at in the web design, because I think the information is there, but if people don't know to click on the things for the more information, that's like a design aesthetic thing that could potentially be more easily modified.
Okay. All righty. The first one on the list is Access. Last year they got 1,000. They're asking for 2,000. Any thoughts, anybody?
Does anybody have any questions about what Access is?
Reasonable.
I'm sorry? What was that,
I-
Maria? Yeah, Maria?
I think going to 2,000 is perfectly reasonable, particularly with the increases in costs that people are experiencing across the board in the area of utilities. I don't think that's a substantial increase. I know I've touched base with a number of these agencies over the past year, and they truly do provide a good service.
I agree with that
Yeah.
fully.
Okay. Does everybody agree?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're our community action agency, and they're the hub for a lot of
Yeah.
access to a lot of different services.
Yeah, they
Can
do
I
a
ask a
lot.
question, just a procedure question, because I'm just looking at our all the documents that we have. So
Right.
are we supposed to go through each one of these with a rating as we're approving or not?
Well, we could.
I think one of the things that they asked last year is for, but I think last year was kind of like, we don't know if we're going to have enough money kind of thing, but the council would like some input as to the reasons why decisions are made here. So what priority it meets and of the town and that, but they
I mean,
definitely
yeah,
would
and
like-
I think something like access, if I'm looking at the funding criteria, alignment with town human services mission, I would imagine
Mhm.
is a 5, if 5 is the
Yes.
highest.
Yep.
Responsiveness to most vulnerable, 5. I am curious about utilization of services by residents, but it says here served 421 Mansfield residents, so that's pretty clear. Offers a critical service not provided by the town. Yes, I would imagine, correct?
Right.
Yeah, they do the state energy assistance program for
Right.
us.
And they do a lot of stuff, not just energy.
Yeah, they do a lot. Yeah.
They do housing
They are
and
also the
So
job
who's
research.
who's filling out the spreadsheet then?
Who fills out the spreadsheet?
You
That
fill out your
spreadsheet-
own. And then we discuss it and we're all in agreement with the different categories.
Okay,
Right.
Okay.
And then the recommendations that you as a whole recommend to the town manager, and that is put in the minutes of the meeting.
Okay. And I think they operate in a fiscally responsible manner.
So to the point is, I guess we're assuming there's enough money to, what I'm hearing is, are we assuming that there's enough money to potentially say yes to all these amounts, all these grants, because a lot of these services are really amazing, and that if there wasn't enough money, would they need those rating papers in order to make some decisions?
No,
Yes.
because we explained to them why
Right.
we didn't give them the total amount. Like there are some of these agencies that are asking for a lot of money. We never give them the whole amount that they asked for because
Oh,
we
Right.
just don't
One
have
of
the
the
money.
things that they're curious about is why we give one agency some, more and another less. And they ask me that all, like, if you've ever watched me in front of the town council, they ask me that every year. So I think one of the things I heard is you could probably recommend more than that if you wanted to, or less than. Like, in other words, it doesn't have to be equivalent to what they ask for.
okay.
You see what
Well,
I'm saying?
so, sorry, go ahead, Julia.
Yeah.
Well, it was one of the questions that I had is, I mean, they were all over the map in terms of the amount that they requested.
Right.
And I wasn't sure what the communication was to them about what they should put in for a request. And then what criteria do we use to decide that one can get 18,000 and another can only get 1,000?
Yeah,
And,
But so-
again, these started out, I hate to say this, but as political grants. The town
Right.
council hates it when I mention that, but that's really true. Originally, an agency just went to the town council and says, we want $5,000 to do, for our agency, and they voted. And a number of years ago, they decided to kind of back into the application. So now the council is trying to figure out how can we write that? But the agencies often just ask for either what they asked for the year before or what they feel is a reasonable amount. United Services asks for a per capita by the number of people. If you look through the other towns, nobody gives them what but that's what they ask every town for. So it's not a particular service. I will say the community companions and homemakers literally take that grant and bill off of it specifically for services for Mansfield residents.
Yeah.
That's the only one that I'm aware of here that specifically does that.
can I go back again? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get the landscape here, and I'm trying to understand the process a little more. Last year, you gave away $176,776 for grants.
No,
This year, if
No.
it were,
no, we only gave away 48,000.
48.
what am I looking at then? What is this, the award from fiscal year
Where are you looking?
2020? Am I looking
We
at the
wish we
wrong
had that
thing?
kind of money to give away.
Yeah, I'm confused on what I'm looking at here.
There's a line that's,
Where are you looking?
there's a line in the spreadsheet that's hidden for WRTD, and that has 129,000.
Okay,
So I think
that's
if
the
you
town
added that with
share.
the 48, then it would be the amount you came up with, Shamim.
Okay,
Yeah, that's the town share of the dial-a-ride program.
are we all looking at the fiscal year 2023 agency funding rec spreadsheet? What should I be looking
Yeah, I'm
at?
looking at the request.
Request.
Yeah, the list of requests. You
And
know,
it shows
so-
a
there's-
award and
but
then a
what-
request.
Right, so
Yeah.
years ago, they moved the WRTD request over to the transportation area. So that's no longer, it used to be in our budget, but it's no longer in our budget.
So are we looking at the 22-23 agency funding requests?
yes,
With the two columns, last year, request for this year, and a little description? Do you see it, Shamim, on one of
I
those
have
emails?
agency fiscal year 2022 award, fiscal year 2023 request,
Right.
agency summary, staff review, recommendations, comments.
Got it. Yeah,
Right, you
that's
know.
where we are.
Okay.
That's where we are.
Right. But you
And
have
I
a,
did
you
the
have a,
quick math for just the amount total this year being requested. Since I think someone had that question of, is there enough money to fund all of the requests? So the total amount that is on this sheet, including the one that we just got from the No Free Shelter, the total amounts being requested is $68,142.24. So it's about $20,000 more than was awarded previously.
but again, it doesn't, we don't have to give them everything they're asking for. Okay, and we haven't, in the past, we have not given them everything that they've asked for. You know, depending on the need of the agency. Yeah,
I'm sorry, I just, looking at these grants overall and broadly, I was a little disappointed in the quality of the requests from a number of different agencies. I felt like, I don't know, I go through these things with a pretty fine tooth comb. There was different information in different sections. A couple of things, like one of them, I don't even know which one it is, that we funded them in the past, the CERAC. I don't even know what they want to do with the money that they're asking for us. They were not specific at all in their request. And I wonder, is there any due diligence that goes through these before we even see them? I do this kind of work for a living. And I'm always sure that before whoever's making the decision gets the grant, they have all the information that they need in order to make the decision with. So I just feel like the quality over the years of these requests has really gone down a little bit. WRCC, their information is all over the place with respect to the time periods that they're reporting on. And there's no information about what Veteran Services does. Thankfully, we have people here who have history with those organizations and know what a great job they do, but you'd never know it from looking at the grant request. So it's just an overall observation. And I think for new people coming in on the committee, it's kind of important that we have solid information to be reviewed.
Victoria, I wonder if that's because they don't give you a lot of information, because in the past, we gave them whatever we gave them. They didn't expect to get anything. So,
regardless.
yeah, I know it. I agree with you. Yeah, but I think that might be part of the issue. You know,
So I don't know.
it doesn't make it right, but I think that might be based on the past history.
I'll
Because we
tell
never
you.
really had much money to give out in the past, you know.
Yeah. So I don't know about anybody else, but that goes into my ability to recommend funding for someone,
Right.
whether or not all of the questions that we ask them are actually answered.
Mhm. So what do you suggest then?
I don't say, I was just making a statement. I'm sorry. I think we should go through it, and I mean, we have to make decisions now, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we've got to work with what we've got.
All right, so we've done access. Why don't we move on to community companion homemakers? And they asked for they got 5,000 last year, and they're asking for 5,000 now.
I think they've done a fantastic job with their application. We know exactly
Yes.
what it is that they're asking for. They provided really good financials. I completely support that.
Yeah.
I do too. I do
And
too.
plus you
I
know
do
what
too.
I
they
will
do.
say, dollar for dollar, it gets spent on Mansfield residents.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
one of the ones I can tell you how they use it, because we work with them, and they work with some of the most challenging people
Yeah.
that we have, and they stay in, which is tough sometimes.
Yep. Yeah, they do a lot with folks. And they do it with very little money.
Right.
I would say that they are one of the agencies that I've always thought never asked enough.
Yes.
That, I mean, they provide such incredible service to so many of our really difficult people who live in town. They're keeping them out of nursing homes. They're keeping them safe. I can only give high praise to that agency.
Well, we can always recommend more money for them if you want.
Right. Because I just want to say, if you do more money, and again, I'm not advocating for that, but that would go right back into helping Mansfield residents. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be spent anywhere else. It wouldn't be spent on administration or whatever. It helps them
Right.
give a sliding fee scale for people who don't qualify for the grant that they've got through the area agency.
I'd have no objections to doubling the request.
If you doubled them or you gave more money to them, is there another agency on the list that does similar work that you would then be like, oh, they do good work, but they're not as focused on Mansfield, so maybe they don't get as much? Or no?
No, I don't think there's anyone else that does what they do. So
I don't think
No,
so
okay.
either. I think they're the only one that does home care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Well,
suggest we go
companions,
through
that's-
each of the grants first. And
Yeah.
then if there's extra money or a quandary of what we want to do, then we go back and load up again. But
But you mean,
um,
we don't know what our bottom line is.
I
See,
can
we
tell
don't
you
know
that.
whether we have
I'm
50,000.
coming into this
So-
and it's
So we don't know.
Oh, here's what I'm going to tell you. I think the town manager is expecting it to come out higher this year because they know agencies, and so is the town council, had a tough time this past year. So I think that the amount that Katie totaled, not that it's gonna go divide up that way, would not be a surprise to them.
you mean the 62,000.
The $65,000, $70,000.
Oh, I
would
don't
not
have
be a
the
surprise to them.
What's the no freeze number?
It was 48,000.
This no freeze number is 6,000 that they asked for.
Wouldn't it be a
Oh,
percentage?
sorry.
I mean, if they're gonna, are they getting a percentage increase in what they're able to allocate, or is it just some number?
So, well, the town's in a better fiscal position this year than it has been in the past, because of pilot and a number of other things. The other thing I will say is this is, the town is also allocating from the town manager's recommendation about $400,000 to nonprofit agencies over the next 3 years. That's separate from this money. This is the stuff that's in the regular budget. And that application process is going to be different, but it's probably going to come through this committee first. So just so you know that money that's going to be something probably they're going to look to you for recommendations as well.
Okay.
So, but I don't think they're going to be surprised. I mean, it doesn't mean that they'll allocate that amount of money, but I don't think they'll be surprised if they see an increase come in.
So if we do recommend an increase, we should definitely back that. Are you taking notes
You
on,
need to back that up with why you would recommend an increase.
is someone documenting that from the discussion in this meeting?
I will be doing that.
Yeah.
If you decide to increase it.
I'm
what
not ready to
you do-
increase just yet, though. I
Right,
want to
right.
go through some of these.
Sure, sure.
All right, so let's move on then to Connecticut Legal Services. They got 65 last year and they're asking for 6,500 this year.
Again, my feeling is this is another application that everything that we ask them to do, the work, I can tell you from my own personal experience, the work that they're doing now is just above and beyond. They have so many cases that are a result of COVID and people's inability to pay their rent and their energy assistance, and they are just really bombarded. So I totally support this.
Anyone else?
They're
have
the
any
only
thoughts?
program that will work with people who don't have money. And they're also the only program that will take on state and federal cases. You know? So,
Yeah,
and municipal cases as well.
yeah. I highly support this, and 6,500 is a really small amount when you think about legal support. So
Yeah.
that's another one that if we had extra money, we could give more money to.
All right. Well, I put a plus by that just in case we can go back to it. Okay, the Holy Family Shelter, they got 35 last year and they're asking for 5,000, and they served 3 Mansfield residents.
Where are they?
Families, excuse me.
Mansfield families.
Yeah.
And this is a more long-term shelter for families. They do case management. They do, they work with victims of domestic violence. They offer learning opportunities for their kids there. And they've had a tough year just because of COVID with everything going up in prices and some of the other issues that they had. So, we don't have any shelters in town. So if any of our families need it, they and the No Free Shelter, those are our only opportunities for sheltering. Close by.
Anybody else have any thoughts on Holy Family? I think they're a good program. I think they do a lot of good. So.
I think they're good, but I think they made a lousy application.
You should hire yourself out as a consultant, Victoria.
I
Executive director, and
Yeah.
I think that might be part of it. So
Yeah.
Well, and Victoria, I'll tell you, there have been worse applications from them.
I'm sure.
Just saying.
I think also
One's better
these,
than some of the ones in the past.
yeah,
Yep.
I think these people who work in a lot of these places are overworked. So that's part of it too, I really think, when it comes to a grant. Yeah,
I can
And they
tell-
rely on a lot of volunteers as well
yeah,
to make things work. So,
yeah.
All right, so we'll leave them at 5,000 for now. With
That's
a,
great.
increase
Maybe
from
with
last year.
maybe
So
with a plus, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, perception programs they got 3,000, they're asking for 45, and they served 10 Mansfield, 100,
101.
101
I would
Mansfield
imagine they served more than 10.
Yes. And they, Perception provides case management and drug and alcohol abuse services and counseling.
Mental health.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. Yes, and mental health, general
Yeah,
mental
and
health.
mental health, yeah.
And they do work with youth as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
They do med monitoring, which is really important for our people.
Yep.
This is one of those grants, it's tough because it's not related to any specific numbers of services, but we know they're nonprofit and providing services, the costs have really gone up.
Yeah.
And they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Everybody dealing with mental health right now are overwhelmed.
Substance
And
abuse
they're in
people.
a really nice location for our EO Smith families, because the kids can just literally walk across the street to get their services.
Awesome.
All right, so you're all okay with the 4,500 requested?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. How about the Sexual Assault Crisis Center? They got 45 last year and they're looking for 5,000 this year. I don't know too much about them, so So if anybody knows anything,
So they are our regional agency that provides assistance for people who've been sexually assaulted. Everything from telephone service to case management to accompanying people to court to, you know, directing people to shelters to, you know, sending people for legal advice.
okay.
I don't know what, you know, I don't know about the increase. I can't speak to that.
So is everybody okay with the 5,000 for now?
I'm great with it.
Okay.
I
How
see
about-
that when I look at the budgets for a lot of these towns, it looks like their budgets are being contributed by lots of different towns. And it feels really good to do our part, even if for some of these we have fewer people being served.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's making sure the services are available
Yeah,
versus utilization. That's what I would say.
Yes.
Like same thing with the shelters.
yeah,
Making sure that that they're available so they can still run.
And hope you never have to use them, you know,
yeah.
that they won't get used because there's no need. Okay, Southeastern Regional Action Council, CRAC. Now, my understanding of CRAC is that they don't do direct treatment, right? What they do is like, we'll give youth services some money to run a program.
But they're a
I
bigger
right?
agency than our old one was. You know, the RAC that we had before was a one-person agency.
Yeah,
So they offer us a lot of technical assistance, training. They're the ones who did the Narcan training for us. They're, you know, they've done a lot of that. It's really just, I'll be honest with you, it's probably more of a symbolic grant that we support them than anything else.
Good, because
Maybe
it's
you
a
want to add to that?
symbolic
You have more to do with them than I do.
Their application was horrible. But
And they are the so it's not a RAC anymore because RACs
They're not-
are a
yeah,
different name
are
now. So
gone.
they're the RVHAO for the state. So they are the state agents, the DEMIS selected agency for this region of Connecticut, which is the entire eastern region. And their work is procuring federal and state grants and then getting them out to the local prevention councils, which for Mansfield, the Youth Services Advisory Board is the local prevention council. And we get the local prevention council funding grant each year. So they do a lot of grant legwork and then pass it on to YSBs and towns to be able to fund things. Like we had extra money this year because of COVID. So we were able to request additional funds, about $4,000 of additional funds for suicide prevention. And then they have had other grant opportunities come through them for like the state opioid response grants and things like that. I happen to know, because I work very closely with them in that grant management, that some of the money they were supposed to get that they did award out to towns, they didn't end up getting. And so they are eating a lot of those costs as an agency to still be able to fund the YSBs and local prevention councils and give them the full awards that they had anticipated.
if we give them 1,000, you actually get more than $1,000 back from them.
Yes, our LPC grant each year is typically in about the $5,000 range. This year it was more. And then in other years when we have other grant opportunities to apply with them, you know, it's anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000, depending on what grant they've kind of brought into the state for us.
Okay, good. So everybody's okay with 1,000 then. Okay, good. How about the
I'll give them a hard time to make sure they write a better grant next year.
police? How about TBCC Meals on Wheels? They got 35, they're asking for 5,000. They served 17 Mansfield residents last year. Is that all they served, was 17?
Through the Meals on Wheels program, but it was 17 people that got, actually it wasn't, because last year they also took some of the people who weren't able to come into our community cafe because of COVID, And we did weekly drops instead of, so in other words, once a week, they got their 5 meals that they would have normally come in here for. So, but I can say COVID has really pointed out the importance of something like Meals on Wheels, because for many of our very homebound people, that's how they got their food, particularly during the first part of COVID. So, it was a vital service that still ran even when everything else closed down.
Right.
Give it to them.
Yeah.
Give it to
Thanks,
'em.
Will. Thanks, Will. Yeah, I think so. Okay, United Services, they got 5,000 last year and they're asking for 18,642. They served 325 meals for residents last year. They always ask for amounts like this, and we always give them much less. Go ahead.
I think that we need to increase our allotment to United Services. I mean, even if we look at it in comparison to perception programs, which offers a similar type of a service for perception programs for approximately 100 clients, we're going to give them $4,500.
Right.
United Services serves 3 times that amount of clients. Shouldn't we give them 3 times the amount of money? And they get their reimbursement is so nominal. I mean, from what I've understood, I think that Diane Manning has done a really good job in educating the community and the legislature and everybody involved in the reimbursement that these folks are getting. And mental health is such a hugely critical issue right now that I think we should do whatever we can to support them.
I would agree
And
with you,
again,
Virginia.
this is pretty much an administrative grant, not for service. So it's tough. Yeah, I'm going to say it's tough. It's not dollar per dollar for them or perceptions or a number of these by the people that they serve, because their funding is mixed. But you're right, a lot of these agencies and COVID knocked a lot of these agencies pretty hard. So
you can't find a therapist these days. It's
right.
really, really difficult. So yeah, I'm all for extra funding for them.
Right.
Well, I'm trying to open up, I can't seem to open up the PDFs that were attached for some reason. But
To
to me,
United Service?
yeah, I'm extracting the file, but having a little trouble.
I had to download it.
Yeah, there's zip.
Okay.
That's
I had to
why.
download it
Yeah.
to open it.
So I guess my question is, how much of that money or increase would go to actual patient facing time? Is there a way to figure
It's
that
not.
out?
It's not going to, them perceptions, those are administrative grants. So that's to help offset the losses they take that Victoria was talking about. So it's not going directly to any patients. It's supporting the overall agency.
It's supporting services for patients, but not
Right.
going to patients.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We want to give them 18,000 for administrative costs.
But are we sure that it's purely administrative? How do we know that part of that cost isn't going to therapist salaries? Do we know that?
But that's what I'm saying, it's going into their overall administrative pot. It's not like we're paying them so much per therapy session. That's not the way it's going. It's going into the overall administration of the agency to offset the losses that they have.
It's more program costs. I mean, it's like for the delivery of the service, not for, the salaries of the CFO and I mean, that could be part of it, but it's not.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's, I'm not even saying that in a negative point of view, because I know a lot of the grants we get go 100% to people and 0 to administration. And that's sometimes the challenge we get into here is that, you're not offsetting some of that. But you can't always, the reason I'm saying this, you can't always say the numbers are what. I'm saying that they're a very valuable agency that provides a very valuable service. But to quantify that by how much of it's going directly for, toward client service, you can't really do with the, that's what I'm saying.
So what do folks think we should recommend?
So
I
last year
would
they
go
got
for-
$5,000.
I'm
I
sorry?
would vote for an increase in that. I'm not sure. I think we need to go to the 18,000, but I think it's really important that they receive some funds, additional funds, because I think the cost of mental health and the need for mental health has escalated tremendously, particularly because of the pandemic.
So how much?
About 10,000.
So we could do 3 times. We could do 15,000 if we've got the money.
I would second that.
Now, again, the town council is going to want you to justify why you tripled the amount.
I
Just
do
so you
think
know.
that there is something to the numbers of people served. I think that if we're giving, whether it's the exact same service, but it's in the same field, it's the cost of doing business, right? So if we're giving one mental health provider $5,000 to serve 100 people, and we have another mental health provider serving 3 times that amount of people, then we should give them 3 times that amount of money.
They charge people for services, right? They don't have.
They do.
So does
Yeah.
perception.
They bill insurance, and they also offer sliding fee scale, I believe in the same way Perceptions does. I think they
Yes.
use
Right.
the same kind of triaging and billing systems.
Okay, so
They would be considered equivalent services.
Right.
The only other thing that is worth maybe noting about the difference between United Services and Perceptions. United Services is also the local area provider for a few in-home programs, like the parenting support programs that they have. So that's different than what Perceptions offers. But in terms of outpatient clinical work, they would bill in the same capacity.
okay,
I do also want to say that some of those people in that are also, they have some EAP contracts, and they're billing EAP contracts to businesses. So they're just telling you how many people they served in Mansfield, not necessarily, what they did. So some of the stuff they list is not mental health services, but I'm not downplaying it. I'm just saying, if you want to call apples to apples, they have a broader list of services.
so would
You could also argue that mental health, like the cost of poor mental health, is so high in terms
Sure
of
is.
people being able to do anything for themselves, that just mental health care, like good mental health care, actually ends up saving money and time in other services. So there's that lens as well. Yeah.
what do you think we should
And
recommend?
before the math gets away from me, because I think we were throwing around the $5,000 figure towards Perceptions, what I had written down was the 4,500 had been what they had asked for. So if we're looking at doing it from a numbers perspective, we would just want to make sure we were basing it off of the numbers.
That's a nice compromise. 13.5. What do you guys say to that?
I'm good.
Okay,
Okay.
all right with me.
I have to say that this year United Services was extremely helpful to shelters
Yeah,
and expanded some services, and some of the people that are coming into the shelters that we're seeing right now are extremely mentally ill with major needs. And we have, at least the shelter that I'm affiliated with, we have found them very helpful, very useful, and very accommodating.
Awesome.
all right.
And they
let's go with-
also hold the contract for our part of the state for domestic violence assistance.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
all righty,
That was good.
so we'll recommend 13.5. How about the Veterans Administration? They got 5750 and they're asking for the same amount. I don't have a problem with this, what they're asking for.
Go ahead, give it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, Wayne.
I'm going to shut you off because I got to leave.
I'm sorry. Well, no,
That-
it's-
That's
You have to
okay.
come
She
back,
was part of
though.
the discussion.
Are you leaving
Thanks.
for good? Vicky?
You just have to recruit yourself, Vicky. You don't
Yeah,
have
just
to.
excuse yourself.
You
You're
can
muted.
listen.
You're muted.
Yeah,
You're muted.
yeah, you can't. My whole screen just went small. What'd you do, Victoria? Come on. Oh, here we go. Just don't say anything, okay? Wayne, they got 3,500 and they're asking for 4,000. We all know what Wayne does. They do heating assistance, they provide clothing, help with housing if they need it. I don't have a problem with giving them 4,000, if
Yeah,
not
and
more.
I will say they're always a partner in us when we're trying to figure out a plan
Yes.
for some bizarre costs that we're trying to come up with for clients. Pulling a little money from here, some
Yep.
from there. Wayne is almost always a partner for us for that.
I think I would say we should recommend 5,000 at least for them.
I like
You know
that.
what? I gotta,
Okay,
I agree as well.
let's see.
and that's not just because Victoria's on the line. I would be saying the same
No,
thing.
no, it's not.
Um,
Okay, the no freeze. They got 57,000, 5750 last year, and now they're asking for 6,000. Again, I think, they do a good job too. I mean, they provide a service
They're-
that no one else.
I gotta be honest with you, getting homeless people off the street
Yeah.
is kind of the way
Yeah.
we did it this year, getting people into hotels.
They find apartments for
It's
them. they
become a
help
much
with
more
all that.
sophisticated service, let me put it to you that way, and they had to make that jump pretty fast.
I would suggest we give them 6,000 and recommend,
7,500. How's that?
okay, whatever you want. Does everybody else agree with, Will?
Do and I don't. I'm sorry. I think it's great, but
What do you think?
you have to take into advantage like how many people are served.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I love the no freeze. I think that they do a fantastic job. I don't know.
They've had a lot of money flowing
I'll go
into
for
them from
75
different
if you want to do
sources.
75. It just seems like a
Right.
high, just
So,
there's no rationale.
here's-
What's the rationale for it?
yeah, so here's what I would say a little bit about that too. Some of the things that they mentioned in their grant proposal, and you guys haven't seen it yet because they got it in late.
We got it.
Have to do with some of their external costs that they could apply for the ARPA money. It's like, that's more appropriate. This is like an ongoing grant. Some of their justification for more would probably be more appropriate for when the ARPA funds are released through the town.
okay. So you
But-
want to just stick with the 6,000? Okay.
Totally.
Agreement.
So,
I just want to push back a little bit on that. Look at who's served or how many people are served, because the no free shelter, that's in Willimantic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and we're neighboring towns with Willimantic, and Mansfield's a wealthier town. We don't need a no free shelter here necessarily, but kind of maybe we do, and we don't have it. And we have this town right next to us that we get to go and eat, great restaurants and shop at the co-op and be with our neighbors and get to know other people and have some diversity in our lives. And, I'm just saying, I hope this isn't too but I just think towns supporting each other, even if Mansfield residents aren't directly being served, I think it's a really good thing.
You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
here's
Absolutely
what
right.
else I'm going to say about that. Many of those people that they're serving don't really have a home. They're not really coming from Mansfield or Willimantic or anywhere specifically. They may be living in a camp out in the woods.
Right,
Not that
right.
I'm, mentioning anything specific, but that might be partially on Mansfield's property. So that's a little harder on the whole where the people came from because they're homeless.
Yeah.
So they're just talking to the people that their last address was a Mansfield address. not necessarily people who are homeless in Mansfield.
Right.
I'm sure the number's higher than that.
But didn't someone just say they have money?
They have gotten money because were a grantee for some of the CDBG funds that
Yeah.
allowed them to place people in hotels.
Correct.
And they just got a new spot. I mean, there's no doubt they're going to be needing more money. They're going to be needing money for renovations. They're going to be needing
Yeah.
all kinds of different money. But they did get the building donated to them that they're moving into. And, and so it's not like they're not on their own.
That's
As
good.
a matter of fact, I think that one of the agencies that funds them is really going to try to make the shelter in Willimantic a model shelter with some really innovative design going into it. So it's going to be a great asset for the entire region, not just for the community.
They
I'm
actually
having
got
a little
funds
bit
from
of-
CDBG.
I guess
go ahead.
I'm still struggling with this allotment of funding, not knowing how big the pot is. Because if it's unlimited funds, that's great. Everybody gets money. It's hard for me to understand how much money we're playing with here. If I had to vote, I would say that the mental health programs, specifically in these past 2 years, need higher levels of funding if we have a fixed pot of money. So I'm a little conflicted, and it's not to say that any of these other agencies don't also solicit on their own. So I give to the No Free Shelter or wherever. So this isn't their only bucket of money.
Oh, no.
So I just want to be, kind of, I guess this is a very unusual process for me that
Yes, and I would say
we're
this
making
year,
it rain, but we don't know how much we're raining.
So this year, Shamim, I think they're expecting us to come in with about 70,000, between $65,000 and $70,000 in what we would approve. Because I know it's a hard year for people. So, and this is the town's grant money. Again, not the ARPA money, which will be a lot more money and mostly for capital programs. So, one-shot deal type things. So
to me, from a school perspective, our families
Right.
need United Services and perceptions programs because we're high utilizers right now.
yes.
Not that there are other things we don't need. I don't want to rank that way. I mean, everybody is getting at least what they ask for or not, or if not more. But if we have extra money, if we have 7,000 to kind of wiggle around with or whatever it is, can we put it into certain pots?
Mhm.
That idea.
Yep, you can do what, this group is what the council's expecting you to come with recommendations to them as the experts.
So what's our total so far?
It's about,
Somebody's written it,
It
right?
depends on what you're saying. So let me go through this. Access 2,000, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Community companions and homemakers, did you say 5?
Keep it at 5.
5, okay.
and maybe an increase.
Oh, that one we said we would
I'll
increase.
just put a star. I'll put a star next to the ones that maybe you'll increase so that we can add it up and then you can see if you want to add. Connecticut Legal Services, you said they asked for 65, you said 7,000, is that correct?
No, we settled
Or
65.
Okay,
65.
65.
We was 65.
Okay. Holy Family Shelter, the 5,000. Perceptions, they asked for 45. How much did you say to give them
45 for now.
for now? Okay, 45 for now. Sexual assault crisis, 5,000. $1,000 for the CRAC. 5,000 for the Meals on Wheels. $1,350 for United Services, is that correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, Veterans Advisory, 5,750. Wayne, 5,000. And Wyndham No Free Shelter, 6,000. So let me go through and add that up.
Did you say United Services with 13,500 or 13,000?
Yeah,
13,500.
13,500.
Yeah,
And
Let me go
Wayne was
through.
5,000, no freeze at this point is 6,000.
it
Right,
comes
Yeah.
out to about 73,000 total, 73,600, right? Is that what you have?
I'll type what I got in the chat to not say numbers out loud to cross numbers in brains.
I every time someone talks, it's one of those things where I end up having to start all over again.
That's exactly what I
Goodness for
have. Katie.
calculators.
Put it on a spreadsheet, Pat.
I know.
So
can
we
put it on a
have
spreadsheet.
roughly 11,000 to spend, is what you're saying.
That they would not be surprised with that recommendation. So
If we're at
5,000
64,250.
Let's do it.
and
Yeah, let's go.
6,000. 64,250.
Right.
And if you were gonna, that would, if you're going up to 70,000, it would leave you 5,750. Or you can add another 10,000 to it. I mean, another 5,000 to it, if you want to go up to 75.
Let's go up
Sky's the
to
limit, guys.
75.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so you have $10,750 more to allocate.
I remember hearing
Make
people
it rain,
say,
guys.
I mean, one at a time.
I remember hearing people say that community companion and homemaking service goes beautifully directly to people. So I'll just put that out there.
They should get more.
Yeah.
Yes.
How much more? You want to double it or?
I don't think I'd double it, but they'd appreciate
7,000?
it.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
How about 7,500?
7,500.
I really agree with, is it Shaman? How do you pronounce your name?
Shamim.
Shameen, with your point about mental health services, and I really
Me too.
have nothing against giving everything else to mental health providers. Just because the need is so great right now.
Does the homemaking service do mental health?
They're actually providing, but they're actually providing
Socialization.
services to people who are homebound,
Yeah, and I would agree with
have
that.
mental health issues.
Yeah. How about just 7,000? Just give them some.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could start there.
I have a math moment if anyone is interested in a math moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have 12 agencies that have applied. 11 of those agencies offer direct services to individuals who exist in Mansfield, the exception of direct services being CRAC, which is the indirect grant funding organization. So if we were to consider, do we want to divide up things equally, that would be the math that we're playing with, in a few differentiators to do that. And if we magically had an extra $250 to divvy up, we would go up to $11,000 and then potentially 11 direct service places.
Yes, I'm thinking, thank you, Katie, for that math. But I guess I'm thinking about if we're justifying how we've made these determinations. If we say something like, mental health and food insecurity are priorities of this group, then how are we allotting our money? Again, I mean, there are some people who did up their numbers. So Holy Family Shelter did increase. So they're good for now. I would hope that they put in a mindful budget to ask for the money they have. So I guess I don't know if I want to across the board give 12 people, X amount.
I feel the same. I feel like let's make some value judgments.
Just because they don't do mental health or substance abuse treatment directly, some of these agencies rely on some of this money to exist, so we gotta keep that in mind.
Okay.
You know, as much as you'd like to fund, you know, receptions or United Services or, the food thing, with extra money, you gotta remember that all these other little agencies, they're little.
Yeah.
Every dollar helps them.
Mm.
And so we gotta keep that in mind. So I think what we've come up with is reasonable at this point. Our recommendations.
We
Personally,
You'd
did,
advocate for the $65,000 or the 64,250?
Well, I think just the numbers. I don't think we need to figure. We may not have $73,000 in the end. I mean, that's up to the town council, but we're pretty close to it, and hopefully we can get these programs funded.
Ethel?
Yes.
I would agree with you. And I think every agency listed here in one way or another deals with mental health.
Yes.
In terms of how their services are approaching and dealing with the person, either keeping them off the streets, providing them utility help, rent help, providing them direct services for their mental health. Every agency on this list in some ways is involved in mental health, and in many ways with food scarcity.
Yeah.
Your shelters are feeding people. You're clothing people, you're sheltering people, you're following them over many of us are following some of these groups over 2 or 3 years to see that those who have started with that particular organization are continuing to get services as they grow and develop and maybe find a better way to present themselves. So I think we should look at this as this is a total 12 agencies in some way or another, probably all dealing with mental health. And if that's a prime issue, they're all doing it.
Sure, because look at TVC when they were delivering meals to the shut-ins during COVID.
Right.
You don't think that affected their mental health? Think about it. You're up there, you're all alone, you can't go anywhere,
yeah.
you live
That's a good
alone.
point.
I would like to say that they delivered the meals to us. My staff delivered the meals.
Okay, whatever,
So
whoever does it,
it's a nice partnership that we have with them.
But even so, just to see a
Yeah.
staff member, to have some human
Right.
contact.
I can say with Meals on Wheels, and I know Will has delivered as well. I think Will would agree to me. We provide a sense of you're okay. We check in on them. We concern about them. Sometimes the driver of Meals on Wheels is the only person that sees in the course of that day or week.
Yeah.
So that is a mental health boost. It's a mental health caring part of that service.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will have to say too, we want to make sure that it's somewhat sustainable, because remember, these grants are the grants we do every year. So, and I know the council is hopeful that some other agencies will come forward too. Like they were hopeful, they were really pushing this year. We advertised it, we pushed it out, the same people applied. So they're hoping that there's an expanded number of agencies that feel, comfortable applying in the future. So if we're talking about sustainable funds versus like the one-shot deal type stuff, that,
Correct.
the other funds will be.
And these are all these programs are getting funds that will sustain them.
Are you saying that we should stick with the 64,000 because you feel that's more sustainable versus increasing some of these or all of these?
Yeah, I think we should just leave
I
with
do.
what we
I agree.
suggested.
I'm just putting that out there, having gone through, now I've been here for 8 years. And in 8 years, I've been told to hold the line with these grants. Like that's really what they were looking for. This is the first year that they're saying, and I know funding is looking that much better for the town, between pilot funding and other funds that are available. But I just would hate to create expectations from agencies that the town will then pull back too much. That being said, I think they're expecting you to come forward with more requests this year.
Yeah, but they may say they want more, but in reality, are they going to give it to us?
I don't
I
know.
worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Victoria.
If number one, we can always send out these awards saying that you may notice an increase, but please don't count on this. It's not a sustainable increase. So I say, if they're telling us to spend the money, let's spend the money. I mean, why leave it on the table? If
I think this current council,
the second question is, if they want to cut it, how, are they going to come back to us? Are you going to cut it, Pat? Like, how is it going to happen?
it will happen at the council table. I'll be honest with you, it's usually me sitting there during the budget time and they're asking me lots of questions. I would really love it if someone from here would come and talk to them and talk about how the decisions were made, because it seems like they're talking to me versus, this is really this group who are making the recommendations. So, but anyway, and maybe if it's via Zoom, it might be something someone feels more comfortable being part of answering some of those questions, because, I don't want them to think these are my recommendations, because I think all these agencies are very valuable and very useful. I think it's great the town of Mansfield does this. Many towns do not, by the way. This is very different from a lot of towns. So, but I think they're looking for this group to make mindful suggestions about, how those, if they're allocating dollars, how they will be best spent and why.
So what we've done so far feels like it is really valuing all the groups and appreciating all the groups. And if we had a baseline recommendation, might be the 64,000, and then is it possible we could say, and if there's more money, this is what we would like to see.
Yeah, but that should come from someone, one of you guys. Doesn't come the same from me.
At the meeting.
Is it fair to say, I guess, go ahead, Julie. I haven't heard you.
Okay. So this is my first time going through the process with this. It feels a little arbitrary, and I feel a little uncomfortable giving people more money than they asked for. And it also feels a little unfair because agencies weren't given any parameters for how much money to ask for in the first place.
Right.
And so I would feel more comfortable going to the town council saying, we're comfortable funding everyone at the level that they asked for, with the exception of United Services. That totals this amount. If there is extra money, then, we could say there's two possibilities. One is we think these are all, these are all agencies that are providing meaningful services, or we can even say the ones that are providing direct services. And so they could all be bumped up by another $1,000 or whatever we think is reasonable. Or option number two is, because mental health services in these past couple of years have been so huge, we could send another $2,000 to $5,000 each to the agencies that are providing mental health services, and sort of provide those two options to the town council. But anything other than that, something about it doesn't sit right with me.
You got to remember, Julie, that these agencies have been applying for getting money from us for years, and for years they've only gotten either what they asked for or less, because they knew they weren't going to get more, so they don't put in for any more because it was flat funding. And that could be part of the issue here. They didn't know that the town might have more money.
But
I think it would be,
you got to look at the history of it all.
Right. I would strongly suggest that this group gets back to the council and says, why don't you decide on an amount of money? We can say that that's the amount of money that's available, and then people can apply, because I have been uncomfortable with this since I started here. Having worked on grant review before, you usually know how much money you're working with.
Yeah.
They know how much the grants are, and they're usually in pots, 2,500 and then 5,000 and 10,000, you know what I mean? Like they apply for a level, and this is just kind of different. So, and you're right.
So
Can you get back to them, Pat, and find out? what the bottom line is?
We have more money, I have more guidance this year than I've had in the past.
Right.
So
still don't
in the
know how much
past,
we
they
have,
haven't, other
though.
than have said to me level. So if you were
Okay.
given just one, you know what I mean? It goes, you know, take it away from somewhere else.
When does the council review this? When does your recommendation or our recommendation have to be in?
So let me look and I'll tell you when I'm going to be in front of the council because it's part of the human service budget presentations.
You have
and
to
grants.
provide it in advance, correct?
Yep. So and the town manager puts it in his budget. He's expecting it. Let's see. Here's my budget here.
So Pat, or did they tell you $75,000? Did they say that number to you?
No, so I backed the town manager into it. I'm like, I'm not going forward this year when people are saying increasing funding without some guidance. And he said that they wouldn't be surprised at that amount. But I think they
75.
were anticipating there'd be more grantees, more people who applied, and it's the same people who applied.
Okay.
So, let me see, where's human service?
I like the tiered idea. You know, I really like that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it would be, I think it would be wonderful if we had, that's most of the grants that I've reviewed. Capital expenditures are on. The town manager presents his, okay, yeah. It's mine. Oh, I don't know, it's not coming up on my calendar for whatever reason. I will get that out to you.
Yeah, would you
So
let us know?
it's been said already,
Okay,
so. General Capital Fund. Okay, the town manager makes his first presentation on March 30th.
okay,
Okay, and then there's a public information session on the 6th of March, and then the general fund and capital review is on the 7th. I'm not seeing mine. I'll have to go out and tell you when I'm on. It may be that, it's probably that, that second date that I told you, but let me make sure. And I'll get back to you.
okay. So how do you all want to leave it?
What if we make a second, we make that foundational amount and then we make a second recommendation for more of some kind.
If there's additional funds, these would be what you recommended as.
Yeah, if we actually
that
get to
would-
go to $75,000, this is what we recommend.
So we're recommending what was requested. Is that what we're saying? So we're not going to up community?
Other than United Services?
We did increase some
We did
beyond,
increase.
right? So we're at 64,250 right now. And I do appreciate Julia's statement that
Yeah.
we have done a mindful allotment based on what people put in.
Mhm.
And then we can say that if there is more funding, here are the targeted areas.
Right.
Which would be mental health, correct?
And I think that food insecurity was part of it. So I don't know if,
Okay.
it's hard to start. If someone put in a baseline budget of like Meals on Wheels, 3,500, and they went to 5,000, they've already anticipated a growing need.
Right.
So maybe that's all they can manage right now too.
So do you want to go, because this is, we have to put this in the minutes. So do we want to go line by line and take a vote on each amount?
Why don't we do that so we can,
Okay, so I'll say the amount and Ethel, you call for a vote? Does that
okay,
work?
Is this the final amount or the second, if there's funding? I'm confused.
No, this is the final amount.
Okay.
This is your recommendation to the town. This goes to the town manager.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then we'll do a second round of if there's more
And
money,
you can
this is
do
what we
some, if
recommend.
there's additional funds, this is what you would recommend.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay.
So do you want me to do the amounts that you told me that add up to 64, or do you want me to do the amounts that the agencies asked for?
I think the
Except
amount
for-
that ended up
The
at
one that we did
64.
before.
64.
Yeah,
64,
agree.
okay? All right, so Access Agency, $2,000.
Can I have a vote on that? All
So
those in
moved.
favor?
We can do thumbs up and thumbs down.
Yeah, so everybody's in favor?
yes.
Okay,
That's
good.
unanimous.
That's one.
I'm just
Okay,
double checking. I'm non-voting, correct? Because I'm staff.
Yeah, you're
Right.
not voting,
yes,
Katie.
yep, you and I don't vote. Community Companions and Homemakers, $5,000.
All those in favor of recommending that amount?
Aye,
Okay, it passes.
Okay, Legal Services, $65,000.
All those in favor of that
No,
amount?
$6,500.
I mean,
Yeah,
6,500.
6,500. Yeah. All those in favor?
Ooh.
Okay,
Sorry, Pat.
yeah, it passed. We're down to.
I really thought I didn't have to do math if I majored in social work, just so you know how wrong I was. Holy Family Shelter, $5,000.
All those in favor of that amount for Holy Family?
I recuse myself.
You have to recuse, one recused.
I will recuse.
And
Okay, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 yeses and 1 recusal. That passes.
Okay, Perceptions, $4,500.
Do I have to recuse myself if I'm on the board of perception?
Yes,
yes.
Yes.
Have to abstain from the vote.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have what? 1, 2, I've got the count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor, 1 recusal. It passed.
Or oh yeah,
Abstention.
I would have said abstention,
that
not recusal.
abstention,
Yeah, abstaining, yeah,
abstention.
excuse me.
Yeah, they both are, that's what it is.
Those abstain.
Okay, Sexual Assault Crisis, 5,000.
Those in favor of 5,000,
Okay,
okay, passed.
CRAC, 1,000.
All those in favor of $1,000 to CRAC? Okay, passes.
Okay, TVCCA Meals on Wheels, 5,000.
All those in favor of that? Okay, passes unanimously.
Okay, United Services, 1,350.
All those in favor of that amount?
13,500, right?
Right,
13,500, yeah, I'm sorry.
everybody's in favor of that, huh?
Maybe I
Okay,
should have had
good.
caffeinated coffee.
So that passes.
Veteran Advisory, $5,750.
All those in favor of veterans for 5,750? Okay, passes.
Okay, WAME, 5,000.
Yes. All those in favor of Wayne? We have one abstention.
abstention
I abstain.
Yeah.
and 6.
1, 2,
Yes.
3, 4, 5, 6 to 1, yeah.
Okay,
6 in favor, 1 abstention.
and Wyndham, no freeze, 6,000.
All those in favor of no freeze, 6,000. Okay, it passes.
Okay,
Okay, so we
So-
have that.
so there's that. And now, if the council is adding, you want to recommend that they look at the mental health services. Top number 1, right? Mental health providers.
Yep.
And that's really all you want to say, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, we did hear people saying that other services were affecting mental health. I just don't
Yes.
want to ignore what other people were saying about mental
that's
health
correct.
being a part of receiving meals and a part of having shelter and like so do we want to lean into the specific mental health services, or do we want to do that across the board that Katie was mentioning, with keeping in mind maybe some of Julia's thoughts there too? That's what I'm wondering.
Ethel? I support across the board if there's additional money, because I really believe that every agency can benefit from a little extra money. Many of them are small, it was mentioned before. Many of them are living right on the edge in order to provide the services to the
Yep.
folks that they serve. I would personally vote against them going into one specific agency. I'd like to see it spread evenly across the board to all the agencies.
So we have a motion. Is there a second to that motion? Will seconds it. All those who are in favor of the motion? Do a thumbs up.
Could you state the motion, Ethel?
Oh, the motion is that if there is extra money, every agency gets it across the board.
Yes,
Increase.
that's only fair.
Do we need any more discussion? Is there anyone else who wants to?
Yeah, well, let's have a vote and then we can do
Oh,
discussion.
is that how it goes? Thanks. Okay.
So all those in favor of Marie's motion, say, do a thumbs up.
I'm abstaining.
And we have just, well, it doesn't pass.
They don't have a. It
We
doesn't
don't have
pass.
enough.
I'm confused. You vote before there's a discussion?
No, you have to have a
No.
discussion before you vote.
No,
Okay.
I always do it. You vote and then you have your discussion.
No.
No.
No, you want to do
Okay.
the other way?
Make your motion first, and then you have the discussion, and then you
Okay.
vote.
Okay, good.
So we
Okay.
have a motion. Is there any discussion?
Still, I don't know.
I will say
And
that
I
the
guess I
council may make some changes right at the table. They may take money from here and move it over there. I've seen them do that. And they may just add money on. So I think whoever, if someone comes, that would be great, because especially if you guys have some things that you agree on. Because you could say if the funds are more, and I think as they're talking about the ARPA funds, it would be really important for you guys to clarify what may make it easier for you to make recommendations if they come up with some parameters like amounts of grants
Yes.
and,
Mhm.
you know, types of expenditures and all of that. Because you think this is hard. Talk about trying to do this with $400,000.
Yeah.
So if you don't have parameters.
Correct.
Okay,
You know,
yeah.
when I've applied for federal grants, they usually have a total amount that they are anticipating being able to award contingent upon funding by Congress.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so there's no guarantee, but there's a parameter. And then they will say that you can apply for up to a certain amount. And then they've also identified their priorities for the
Right.
year. And so I think going forward, that would be a helpful process, because some agencies, if we had said what is critical for this year is mental health, some
Right.
agencies might have prioritized different services in their application, because many of these
Exactly.
agencies provide lots of services.
Right,
Right.
And so it seems like that would be both more fair, but also more planful on our part, and a more thoughtful way to think about how to distribute the services. I mean, the money.
yeah, but doing it this way
So-
is, for lack of a better word, a half-assed way of doing it. We don't know what we
So-
have. We don't know what our limits are. I mean, it's ridiculous. So
Right.
here we are. We do this every year.
And it's all based on history.
And I will say that the
So,
council is looking for guidance from this group on how to adjust the process.
well, the process, they
So-
gotta give us a bottom line and, you know, what their priorities are. So that's what we can work on. They haven't done that. Yeah,
Can
Victoria.
I make a suggestion that maybe we want to get together a little group and come up with some guidelines around the grant making, just as we
Okay.
would with any kind of grants. So,
Okay.
and that way we'll have it in place for next year.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
be happy to
And
be on
as well
board.
as,
yeah, so you'll
as
do it,
well as
Victoria, I'll
starting to
do
think
it.
about the ARPA funds, because I know that's gonna come here. So,
Right, well, we could probably do both. I mean, guidelines,
right.
yeah.
Who else wants to be in this little group to come up with? Shameen? Okay,
Okay,
Anybody
yeah,
else?
I would do that.
great.
I would do
Yeah,
that.
that's
Okay.
wonderful.
Lena and Jennifer.
sorry? Jennifer and
Lena
who else?
Jennifer as well.
And you can absolutely involve me and Katie both for technical assistance if you need it,
Yep.
because we certainly do a lot of our own grant stuff. So,
Okay,
Something in this conversation that I'm really appreciating is all of you who have inside information, personal information. You've been working with these groups for a long time.
Yep.
Just want you to know that's been of the greatest value to me as I'm just like listening to what's going on.
oh, good.
Thanks.
It's good having new people on the board too, because, things,
Absolutely.
we have a different view, different way of doing things, which is good.
Absolutely.
I also want to say I'm not against what Marie was suggesting, what her
No.
motion is suggesting. I just needed to hear more conversation before being able to vote for that. And
Well,
if there is more funds, it may be, in light of what Julia is saying, especially, it may be just a really generous and good way to use extra money is to go across the board. So, and also somewhat simpler way of doing it too.
right. And it may be that, there are some other things that have been identified, throughout the town that, like you said, like, for example, the school and mental health, access to mental health services. Maybe they want to do something where, they do sliding scale funds and allow families to go to an agency. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, not necessarily through this per se, but a pot of money, establish a pot where some things are available to people by service, because that might be another way too to look at allotting money to go directly to service providers. So I don't know, I'm just kind of
So
throwing
is
that
there
out there. But
Any more discussion on Marie's motion?
I have a point of order question. If the motion goes to a vote, noting that in the process of the individual votes, we had 3 abstentions, if we would have to maintain those 3 abstentions when it came time to that motion.
No, because they not for Marie's motion.
I have to abstain from that because that would include Wayne. If
Yeah.
Wayne
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
beneficiary of
you'd have 3 abstentions,
You're
and
right.
that's actually in the charge. If you looked at it, that you have
Okay,
to
so if we
abstain.
have 3 okay, we'll still have a majority,
If
even
everybody
with-
votes for it.
Yeah, if everybody votes for it. Is there any more discussion?
But it's the bottom line at this point. It's not the individual allotments. Does that make a
Right.
difference?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, I don't,
Well, I don't know. I think if Wayne is a beneficiary of the money that we're talking about, then it definitely makes a difference, and it makes me need to abstain. And you too, probably, because perceptions would be a
Okay.
benefit.
And Holy
Right.
Family as well.
And Holy Family.
Yeah, and Holy Family. So
all right, well, let's see if we
You're
can
all
get a,
involved in the overall thing. It's just an overall thing, not an individual thing. It's an overall.
if you had more time, you could ask the Ethics Commission, but I think at this
well,
point.
why don't we just assume that we have to count the exception, those votes are not going to be counted. You guys can't vote, in other words, okay, because you all
Right.
abstained. So
So there's
why-
4 of you.
I have one more clarifying question.
Sure.
If we're saying that if the motion it potentially is that if there's let's say $10,000 more dollars, however many more dollars there are to that $75,000, that we are suggesting that each recipient receive an equal amount of that or a percentage of that according to the percentage. Do you see what I'm saying? Where I'm going?
three-
No.
Or just don't go
It's
there.
equal, equal. The
Just
motion is
equal.
for
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
very much. Okay, yeah.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of Marie's motion signify by doing a
I'm good
thumb.
with it.
I guess.
Are you in favor, Marie?
I have to recuse.
Oh, you're recused. Oh,
Sorry.
I can do.
Okay, so there's three in favor, 3 abstentions. Anybody opposed? Julie, are you opposed? You had a
I'm so
vote.
sorry, I'm getting this emergency phone call right now.
Oh,
Okay. There goes our vote.
Oh, no.
Well, you still had them.
So no, it has to do with the total versus.
Yeah.
So
I guess
one
we'll
of the
have to
things that I can say, you could put something that.
We'll
you
table
could
the
put a
motion for
statement out
now.
there that just said that, you understand all of the agencies are in need and, they all have a value in.
She's
in
back.
what-
Okay,
Okay.
so are you in favor of the motion? Or opposed?
I'm neutral. I don't know. I think either way is fine. And without guidance from the council on what is most important to them, it feels very hard to weigh in either way. And so that's why I had suggested we could say to them, you could do this across the board, or you could prioritize mental health.
Right.
But I know that sounds very wishy-washy.
Well, the
But, I
motion
mean, they
is
can't
across
do
the
that.
board.
That's actually not bad. I mean, if someone comes, they could say, this was the discussion and we feel that all of these agencies have value and they could all use additional funds,
Yep.
but we know that the priority is mental health here. So you could either, if you had additional funds, put them toward the agencies that offer mental health or across the board, because each of these agencies provides something that's pretty essential.
Well,
If you
but
do
so
this-
wish I'd be
highlighted that
happy
it
to
is
amend
mental
my
health.
motion.
I'm sorry, Marie, what was that?
I said, if you so wish, I'd be happy to amend my motion
Uh,
to include that.
Okay,
And what did you say,
That's good.
Katie?
Yes, do it.
I was saying that one of the points of discussion was that every agency that has applied has some connection to mental health because it has
That's
to do with
right.
concrete services that have huge impact on mental health. The only potential exception that I could think of would be CREC because it doesn't do direct service with clients, and they just fund other mental health organizations. So it is maybe a step removed from direct service mental health, but that we had highlighted as a group as part of the discussion that, TVCC maybe isn't doing counseling, but they are doing mental health work.
so you want to amend your motion or?
I'd be happy to, if that would be within agreement to the overall. If it by consensus, if you'd like me to amend the motion, I'm happy to do that.
Okay,
Can we continue discussion just for a second?
Sure.
I'm
Certainly.
uncomfortable with the flat across the board funding for everyone.
okay,
Because again, there are mindful budgets going into it. I think the solution for next year is very clear.
Yeah.
Here's what our focus is. Write a grant that addresses our focus and our priorities. No one's gone down in their funding. Whatever was requested was honored or heightened. So
Except for United Services.
right.
yes, you're right. Thank you. Now, whether you want to put 5,000 into United Services and honor what they wanted,
No,
I don't know if that's necessary, but
no, I don't think
they've-
it's necessary.
they've doubled, if not 2.5
Yeah.
times more than what they asked for.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
think sometimes when there's a lot of funding without planning, it hurts the agency too.
but the town is going to have to give us a bottom line. So we can make these decisions. Otherwise, you really can't make any you can't make any real decisions. Because you know how much you have.
Right. I mean, it was a little easier when we knew that we had the same amount.
Yeah, when they said it was flat
To some
funding,
extent,
all the
but
other
it
years.
still
you knew,
didn't necessarily balance out who got what.
hassle.
but-
I
Okay,
do
so-
just want to highlight, because it is different on the application itself from the spreadsheet, that there was one organization that did request less this year than previously funded. And that is the Veterans Advisory Center with WRCC. Their previous funding on their application says that they were at 10,000. But our spreadsheet says that they
No.
were at the same flat
No.
amount. So I don't know if there's where the typo exists,
No.
but I want to make sure we know.
That was their mistake.
Yeah,
Okay.
They've been
No,
at
there's
this
no problem.
amount for 2 or 3 years now.
yeah.
The council actually brought them down. They were at 10,000 and the council felt that was an extreme amount for the services that they were providing compared to some of the other grantees. So they took it away from there and gave it, quite frankly, to the no free shelter. That's what I'm saying. That can happen at the council table.
Okay, so getting back to Marie's motion. Do you want to withdraw the motion at this point? Because
How much are we talking about? I'm sorry, a potential of up to what?
we don't know.
Well, we're saying $75,000 and we're
That
at,
was just the town manager when I cornered him, I'll be honest with you. I mean, you know, when I basically said, you've got to give me an amount. It can't just be, this is just, you know, a top that he felt comfortable sending to the council. That doesn't mean that's where it'll go. But, you know, they know it's going to be, there's going to be more requests this, you know, like an increase because they,
can we say something? I don't really understand the budget process in the town, but, you know, if the schools need additional counselors because of everything that these kids have gone through during COVID, I would rather see money go to something like that than just.
so just so you know,
This,
just so you know, there is a service improvement in. And the Youth Service Advisory has sent a letter in. This group is welcome to do that in support as well. To add a full-time position to youth services, to assist in the clients we're already serving, as well as some services to high school students, because that's an area we're not serving at all yet. We're not the services we do at the other level are not up at the high school. So that is coming in our budget this year. That went to the town manager. So.
all right, so, and it's,
I mean, it is our calling, right? Like this group, the calling of this group is to, if I can say this right, is to be directed by what we're sensing as our, you know, the most important needs and where funding should go. So even if the council thinks one thing, like we're really supposed to be a different voice that says, hey, this is what we think. And so I'm really curious if anybody here, I feel like Shamim has already said something about mental health in the schools. And I'm really curious from your own places, you know, where you sit in your work, in your awareness of the town, is there anything that you feel called on this list or even not on this list that we should voice here if there was extra money? Like, is there a gap? Is there something we're missing that's not even part of this grant process that maybe we want to say, these grants we're set with these, and if there's extra money, we want to see money go to blah, blah, blah.
I don't know.
Is that appropriate to like point in that direction?
I don't, not
You
in
could
this
do that,
process, I don't think. This process, you know, I think we're stuck with the way the
Right.
process is set up now. And I don't know
But
if we could
I will
suggest
say-
that if there's extra money,
Right.
maybe they could do something else with it.
Right.
You know.
So you could say, geez, you know, we know transportation is an issue in town, or we know that that housing and fair housing is an issue, or, you know what I mean, equitable housing for people. We know that there's limited you know, access to healthcare providers, or there's not a lot of places for people who are caregiving. You can do that and make recommendations, but it doesn't have to be part of the grant process. You could
Right.
say to the town, hey, we'd like to see more funds go, you know, for the schools to offer this, or for, you know, we're seeing this lack. And so you're an advisement to the town council, not only from a budgetary point of view, but from a programmatic point of view for all human service type needs in town, not just the ones that we provide through my department. So, you know, that is your place and role to do that. That would just be something that would have to be generated from this group. So,
But it's not necessarily a part of this process.
No,
no,
Okay.
let's get back to this process. So Maria, you're gonna withdraw your motion?
I'd be happy to. I can withdraw the motion.
Okay.
I
So,
need a second for that.
Yeah, can we have a second so she can withdraw her motion? Will did it. Okay. All those in favor? Do we have to vote on it?
No, not on a withdrawal.
No, I don't think
Not on
so.
withdrawal.
No,
Not
not at all.
on
No. Okay, so what we have voted on is what we've recommended.
Yep,
Okay,
Yep,
and that adds up to
Okay.
$64,250.
and you'll let us know when
I will let you know when that's going to go forward.
Yeah, please. And we
So that,
have 5 of us who are gonna be on this committee to come up with some recommendations for next year's grant process. Okay,
Mhm.
all right,
And the council will be thrilled to hear that.
yes. Okay. So we'll start working on that once this whole process, this particular grant process is done, okay? Because we have time.
The sooner the better while it's fresh in our minds.
It's true.
Okay, we can do it, but
It's
we'll call
cold
up-
out. You might as well talk about grants.
yeah, well, we can, I'll send out some dates to people on the committee that you might want to meet, okay?
That's great. Thank you. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else in terms of this process that you need to discuss? You want to go through the rest of the agenda now, or do you just want to have a quick? Folks, we did, one thing I want to bring up before we do, we did get the committee on committees sent out their charge to us, and that Victoria worked on and stuff. And and she represented us at the meeting and stuff like that. Anyway, the good thing about it is it's very general, and they don't give us numbers as to the number of people we need to serve on this board. Last time, you had to have a representative for youth, you had to have a disabled representative, you had to have a housing representative, you had to have somebody from the senior center, and we can never, et cetera, and we can never get a quorum. And now they did away with that. But you all fit in the categories in the charge. And I think you all were sent the charge today, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so you can all read it, and that's how that came about, because there had to be some changes made, because we can
Yeah, it
never
was-
get a quorum.
Yeah, it was approved by the town council at their last meeting, so it's definitely more directive. And again,
Yes.
they're definitely looking for input from this group regarding the human service needs in town.
So,
They're looking to hear from you.
so hopefully we can make some changes now that we can always have a quorum. Hopefully we will always have a quorum, so. There's that. Is there anything else you want to discuss before we adjourn? Yeah, Janine?
So I'm just looking at the agenda.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Pat wants to do departmental update, but the other thing that I just wanted to say was, could we get an ethics reading on whether a final vote of something like the grant in totality, not segmented by agency,
Mhm.
is something that we as a group could vote on? Because I think when you're sending something like this to the town council, it would be nice to have more than 3. What do we got? 4 votes, 5 votes, 4 votes. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Good point.
What I was gonna say, yeah, that, I mean, I know the committee on committee were very adamant that they didn't want it to appear that people were pushing their own, their own service areas or whatever. And I did say to them, people have been very good about, backing off, when their items come forward. I've never had a problem with someone pushing for their own. In fact, most people ethically say, I can't do it, but
So
they just want to clarify it.
yeah, could you find out for us, Pat, and run us through the ethics?
Sure.
person? Okay,
Yep.
is there anything else? Is there anything earth shattering in your departmental update that you need to tell us
No,
about?
other than, I think, we, Jessica has resigned. She had, she had
She did?
family commitments that she needed to. And she was our part-time person over here. And then Danielle has got a
Yeah.
great job and we're gonna miss her a lot, so. And the recruitment has already started.
Good.
So we're moving forward on that. And yeah, just moving forward on the budget.
Okay, good.
Do
I
we
will
know what
just
the
hold-
next meeting would be about?
Can I hold space for just a moment? Because I know we have a lot of folks here who know Danielle. So I do just want to highlight that she has let all the staff know that she's leaving, but she is still following up with families.
Yeah.
So it would be something to be mindful of if you're interacting with families, that they might not have that information yet. And she's having very thoughtful and present conversations with them. So they will all have that information, but just being mindful about
Okay.
that. That's going to be a hard conversation for folks who've been working with her for 5 years.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's good. Okay, your question was the next meeting?
Yeah, I was just wondering if we know, do you already have agendas set for meetings? Like, is there a yearly plan? Okay.
If you want anything added to the agenda, let me know and I'll tell Pat. And we'll add it to the agenda.
No, when we were at the committee on committees, we talked about this, Pat, remember? And I had mentioned that it would be good knowing in advance what was coming up. So I think another area of work is to develop that annual calendar with Pat so that we have an idea of how we're moving forward.
Okay.
And my understanding was they felt that it was our responsibility to do that with you, Pat.
Right,
Okay,
right. I mean, you know, what will be coming up obviously will be summer plans, camperships. You know, we know again, utilities are huge right now. We're, you know, working with a number of things for that. ARPA, you know, that's around the corner as well. So,
Pat, when is that other funding stream going to come before us, do you think?
that is really hard to say. It could be pretty soon though. The council is discussing it. They had a special meeting on it. You know, there is probably going to be some discussion at this next council meeting as well. The figure that I've heard, like I said, that was in the town manager's recommendation, I believe is $400,000 over the amount of years that the council, there are definite parameters around those funds. So we would definitely have to say it dealt with this, this, and this, because this is part of what the ARPA fund is supposed to do. Because they're one-shot deal grants, they're probably going to be looking more for capital expenditures or one-shot deal grants. You know, that type of thing, more so than what we were just doing. But yeah, there's a lot of pages of that ARPA final decision to go through. Food insecurity and mental health are two huge parts of that. But homelessness is one. Equity is a huge part of it as well, equity. So.
Anything towards affordable housing? Would that be?
Yes, actually, in that, because that's affordable housing is an equity issue. So there's already discussion regarding that, and that's part of the proposal from planning to, you know, because we're talking about that affordable housing trust, the establishment of the affordable housing trust, which they're already working on. So, and I know there's some requests for some funding toward that as well. So.
is there anything else?
Can I just make one really quick announcement?
You surely can.
Yeah.
Wayne's senior case manager, Evelyn Soya, who's been with us for 23 years, is retiring.
Ah,
Our bicultural, bilingual, Spanish-speaking case manager, and I need to hire someone exceptional to try to begin to fill her shoes. So if any of you know anyone who loves the community and who speaks Spanish and is also bicultural, please send them my way. I'll be getting announcements out very soon.
big shoes to fill.
Big shoes to fill, and I'm just talking about it as much as I can because I have so much faith that the right person is going to land here at Wayne. So,
Well,
Awesome.
there's no public comment, so I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
so moved.
So moved.
Good. We're
Thank you.
adjourned. But thank you, everybody, and I'll get those dates out.
Thank you, everyone, so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Appreciate you all
Thank
so
you all
much.
for,
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Pat, I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye-bye.